Excuse me. Welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly. Always good to hear the broadcast partner, Eddie Orton, say he knew what he was doing and talking about Jericho Sims doing it. Next portion of the program here, we're pleased to get an opportunity to visit with Longhorns associate head coach KT Turner, who had spent 7 years on the staff at SMU the past 7 years. KT, you and I have something in common. His name is Tim Jankovic. I've known him an awful long time, going back to his time at the University of North Texas. And of course, I wanted to get your thoughts on not only working with Coach Jankovic, but also the life of a coach in the business and moving down here to the greater Austin area and being a part of Coach Smart's staff after being up there. How different has all of it been for you in your first season on Shaka's coaching staff?
One with Coach Jankovic, I played for him, so I've known him forever. We went to the same high school. Great. He was really great to be under. And then the business side of college basketball. I mean, my father was a coach, so I grew up around it. And I've moved around a little bit, especially early on in my career. But this time in particular, it's been a lot different because of COVID. You don't get to meet a lot of people, administrators, things like that. The recruiting has really changed because of it. You can't go out and see players. But been on this staff, been with some really great guys and with the staff and players and Coach Smart. I mean, they've helped so much make the transition very easy.
The other thing I was going to ask about the influence of Coach Brown, Larry Brown, and what it was like being around him and the things that you were able to learn from Coach Brown as well.
He's an unbelievable coach. But one thing I tell people all the time, he's an even better person to coach. And that's what really separated him with his players because his players always knew that he really genuinely cared about them. But I learned a lot from him. I mean, I was with him for so long and we still talk to this day. I mean, I learned a lot of basketball from him, and a lot of stuff off the court also, just how to conduct yourself. He was really, really great for my development.
Yeah, I started to say, is it important you feel for young coaches in the game who are coming up to have those types of mentors, those types of guys as who are head coaches, maybe even athletic directors as well, those people in the field of collegiate athletics, certainly in the case of basketball, to help them develop as individuals and as coaches so that eventually someday when they become a head coach, they're passing on that wisdom and that experience down the line. How crucial is it to have that kind of mentorship coming from guys like Larry Brown and Tim Jankovic?
It's huge. I think all coaches, all people should have a couple of mentors like that, and people that can really help you out. And I mean, he was really huge for me. And one thing he gave me was a lot of confidence. You know, just being around him day to day, and then the people you meet when you're with Coach Brown. I mean, like the Popoviches and Doc Rivers. I mean, it's crazy the people that I met through him and had dinners with. But it really gave me a lot of confidence and he helped me a lot. But I think all people, especially in coaching, should have mentors.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what kinds of advice do you think has been helpful that they gave to you early on in your development from all the mentors, the people that had a chance to work with you, to get to know you, to impart advice to you? What's been the useful tools that they passed along or have passed along to you as an assistant and now associate head coach in your time as development in the coaching game?
One, to really work hard and then be yourself. Like they've all told me, like, just be yourself, you'll be fine, you'll be great as long as you're yourself. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to be Coach Brown, don't try to be Coach Jank, don't try to be Coach Smart. Just be yourself and you'll be fine. I've always tried to keep that with me.
Do you find it also, I don't know if refreshing is the term, but it's certainly a new environment in hearing different coaching philosophies, different personal philosophies coming from, say, Coach Smart, as opposed to what you hear from Coach Jankovic, from Coach Brown? I know there's some common thread that bonds all of it and connects all
Yeah.
of it together. I'm sure there's a lot of that, but is it also a unique experience hearing those different perspectives from say those three guys and other mentors and other coaches you visited with in the past?
Yes, without a doubt, especially when you're somewhere 7 years. I mean, stuff gets repetitive, you know. So coming here, it's been great, man. I've learned a lot of new things, a lot of new different ideas from Coach Smart. So it's been really, really, like you said, refreshing to get new things.
All right. Coming up, I want to get into a little bit of the science of recruiting because I know assistant coaches and associate coaches it's a big part of what you do, and I want to get into some of that as well. We'll do that when we continue here. Associate head coach KT Turner joining us as we continue with Longhorn Weekly as we'll continue here on the Longhorn Radio Network and here from Learfield IMG College. We welcome you back to Longhorn Weekly with head coach Shaka Smart, our special guest during this portion of the program, associate head coach KT Turner, the former Hutchinson Community College Blue Dragon. That's correct, isn't it? When you play for the Blue Dragons for Coach Jankovic, is that right?
That's correct.
I wanted to go down this road with you about recruiting. This is clearly, you even mentioned how different it is, even not getting an opportunity to have face-to-face visits with athletic administrators and people like that because of the pandemic and doing things much like what we're doing with Zoom for the show today. How different is it for you? You've been described as a recruiting warhorse to be out there and to have to do it in a completely different fashion, or at least a lot of it being different than how you were normally used to doing it.
Yeah, one thing I personally do with recruiting is lean on meaningful relationships, and you really have to lean on them right now because if it wasn't COVID, you have people call you and tell you about players, and you can get out and go see them. But now it's a lot of video, watching kids on video, and like I said, really leaning on your relationships and trusting guys that are in the gyms watching them as they're playing at the time. But it's difficult because I really like watching guys in person. I like going to high school, seeing how they interact with their teammates, with their coaches and teachers and things. And I also like to stand up next to them a little bit, kind of gauge how tall they really are. But it's been different, and we're really adapting to that.
Yeah, toward that end, you strike me as a person who really enjoys having the interpersonal interaction, whether it be with a student athlete, a high school coach, a parent, that sort of thing. Did that take some adjustment as well? The fact that you want a student athlete to understand your level of sincerity and how committed you are to them and what you hope that they might be committed with regard in the recruiting process, the university, and the same thing with the parents. I mean, does it bring about I don't know, even more of a focus to make sure they understand where you're coming from, more creativity to make sure they understand where you're coming from as a person and not just someone who's recruiting them as a student athlete?
Yes, a lot more things that I've done is FaceTime calls, and I didn't do a lot of that beforehand, but I like to look guys in the eyes, look parents in the eyes, and when you're talking to them, and it's quite not the same, but you still get that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, and I would imagine also it's one of those things where the questions that you might get asked from a student athlete or a parent might be a little bit different, might they? When there's a screen that they're looking at instead of face to face, and maybe it requires a little more digging to make sure you're understanding exactly what they're asking of you or what they're hinting to you, that sort of thing. It requires a little more digging and a little more prodding than perhaps you normally might be able to in a regular face-to-face conversation with somebody.
Yes, it's definitely more comfortable face-to-face, but and you definitely have to dig more, especially with the players to get things out of them on a FaceTime call. But it's definitely more comfortable one-on-one face-to-face.
What was the most challenging part of doing it this way for you? Was it technical? Was it one-to-one communication with somebody? What was the most challenging part of doing it this whole thing about having to do recruiting via Zoom or to visit with a high school coach via Zoom or a parent? What made that more I don't know if complicated is the right word, but at least more challenging for you as an assistant coach trying to do your regular due diligence and your job as a guy who's recruiting someone?
I would definitely say technical because I'm not a tech guy at all. So when the Zoom stuff first came around, I'm like, what is this? And how do you work it? It took me a while, but I would definitely say the tech part of it.
I've heard coaches say two things with regard to this. One, the technical challenge you mentioned, and two, they wish they bought stock in Zoom.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
All right. When we come back, we've got some more Longhorn-related basketball questions for Associate Head Coach KT Turner. When Longhorn Weekly, seen by those of you on the Longhorn Network, continues, and we'll continue from here in a moment. We welcome you back here to Longhorn Weekly, and that was a moment that would certainly make any Longhorn fan smile, any Longhorn player and coach, and that's Kamaka Hepa knocking down his fifth three-pointer of the ball game. Associate Head Coach KT Turner with us during this portion of the program. KT, I know everybody got excited to see Kamaka get out there and be able to contribute. They did one thing that Coach Smart had said was he's always connected, he's always ready. And that always does a coach's heart good, right? When you see guys that are energy guys and may not get as many minutes. He played a total of 8.5 minutes in the first 12 ball games prior to that. But to be ready for the moment and to go out and to be answer the way Kamaka did last Saturday night against K-State.
I mean, I was really happy to see him play well because the way he approaches every day is unreal. I mean, his energy is contagious. I mean, he is every day he's energetic. I don't know if you've seen him on the bench during games, but he's like that every day in practice. He has a great spirit about himself. So I was really, really happy to see him play good. And he's put the work in. He works extremely hard, and I'm just really happy for him.
KT, let me ask you, how different has this week been? You haven't had games, and you were supposed to have a Wednesday night game, and you were supposed to have a Saturday game. How different has it been for you and for the staff in terms of how you've worked with the players to keep them engaged, even though there was no game this week?
Yeah, it's been a little different this week. We had a couple of disruptions, but it's been great because we've stayed in contact with the players, talked to them a lot, FaceTime. Even showing video through Zoom with the guys. So we've tried to do as much as we can to operate in a good manner.
7 years on the SMU staff. What's the biggest difference you've noticed in terms of the basketball you see on a night in, night out basis, what you saw in the American Athletic Conference and what you're seeing now, at least through the first 6 conference games in the Big 12 Conference?
Yeah, the American, it's a great conference. I grew up in that conference. A lot of good programs, good players have came through there. But in the Big 12, I mean, every single night. I mean, when you're preparing for a game, it's a team can beat you. And where in the American, there's usually a team or two you pretty much always knew you could beat. But in the Big 12, I mean, every single night, you're beatable. I don't care who it is.
KT, we appreciate you taking the time to join us, and it's great to get an opportunity to visit with you, and we'll look forward to getting this season back up and running again, and we'll look forward to it and more successes down the road. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks a lot, Craig.
All right, that's the Longhorns Associate Head Coach KT Turner. Okay, of course, as we mentioned, no Longhorn basketball game Wednesday this week against Iowa State. No game coming up on Saturday afternoon. It was originally supposed to be that game at TCU. What we're hoping for is action on Tuesday night at the Frank Irwin Center. The Longhorns against the Oklahoma Sooners. That is the next game on the schedule for the Longhorns next Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock, and then it'll be followed by the non-conference game in the Big 12 SEC Challenge in Lexington, Kentucky against the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll look forward to all of that. We'll look forward certainly to seeing the guys back on the floor. For Associate Head Coach KT Turner, for Assistant Coach Neil Berry, for Royce Ham, and for all of us, I'm Craig Way. We thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to the games returning, and we're also looking forward to visiting with you next week right here on Longhorn Weekly.